It's going to be a very, very intense journey.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Frameskip. This is episode 65. I am your host, Elijah Steele, and with me is Austin Optimus Prime Eller.
Okay. I'll take it. Hi, Elijah. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
You know what they say, till all are one.
Till all are one indeed.
That's what I say, because that's...
And so I was thinking today, everyone has, like, Seth has his nicknames, whether it be giving Charles Manson to George or whatever, but he has his nicknames he likes to use. Austin sometimes doesn't use nicknames. Everybody has their thing, and I don't. So I'm just going to change it every single time to something completely different.
I love it.
I tried that at one point, and then I gave up because it's really hard to think of one on the fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our longtime listeners will remember when you called me the Sax of the South in the very first
Oh,
episode.
I forgot about that.
First episode.
I will never forget the Sax of the South. And
great one.
That other voice you hear is the one and only Seth Megatron Slykehouse.
I'm not familiar enough with Transformers to make a quote, but remember in the first Transformers movie when the Mountain Dew turned into a Transformer? That was
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was right before the Xbox 360 turned into a Transformer.
Talking about product placement.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta fund this movie somehow.
And also, just point out, Hot Rod is the entire reason that original Transformers movie happened, because he messed up. Just gonna put that out there, even though he's my favorite character, he messed up badly. Boys, we have had a rather quiet week. So, What do you say first we start with Seth? What have you been playing?
Oh, wow. I'm glad you asked. Because I just stopped playing Trails of Cold Steel 3. I'm about 20 hours in at the end of chapter 2. And I'm having a blast. I love it. Still can't recommend people pick it up because of the 80-hour intro of the first game that you need to play in order to understand the other ones. But it's super good. It's probably one of the most mechanically sound JRPGs I've ever played. It's really fun. And I didn't know how big this series was in Japan, but apparently Legend of Heroes is like almost as big as Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy in Japan. It's
interesting.
It's right up there. And it goes back like 20 years, and they told one story over the course of like 2 decades, which is kind of annoying. Like, to wrap it up right about now, please. Yeah, I don't know.
So it sounds what I'm hearing is it's like Kingdom Hearts if it was actually written by somebody competent that could tell a flowing story over 20 years.
Yes, exactly. It's got honestly Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings level world building. It's really, really cool because they have different arcs of this story, and each arc takes place in a different location of the world, and they all have like warring political factions and stuff like that. And for instance, in the last series, in Trails of the Sky, the faction that you play in Trails of Cold Steel are the bad guys. They're viewed as like the aggressive, war-hungry faction, and then you play them in the next arc, which is pretty cool. So I'm really enjoying that. I've also been putting a lot of time into Dark Souls 3. And I don't know how I feel about it. I like Dark Souls 3 because I can jump in and just immediately get into like some good action. But I just don't think I like the mechanics of how the game progresses. I think I actually like Remnant from the Ashes, the way they do it more. I don't like how in Dark Souls, when you die, you lose progress. I think for a game built around death, punishing the player for dying is frustrating to me. And I don't like that. Especially when the game goes out of its way to make the deaths very unfair for your first playthrough. If you're gonna have something that the player gets punished for, I think it needs to be on a fair playing ground. And when you've got enemies that are like ambushing you and stuff that you have no way to know that they're there, that's very frustrating to me. So I do like the action in the game. I like the RPG elements in the game, but there's that giant glaring flaw for me personally. I know people love it, but I have killed the first 2 bosses. I'm on the road to sacrifice right now, so I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing or not. But
now, Seth, I do have another question for you. I don't know if you had talked about this on the podcast since then, but I know you beat Doki Doki Literature Club.
oh yeah, I did.
I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm obsessed with Doki. I can't tell you anything because it's gonna ruin it for literally anybody who listens. And like,
now you know exactly what I mean when I can't tell you, but you'll know.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Doki Doki, dude. Like, that was the perfect thing for me to jump into based on like my interests and stuff, because it goes so deep, Elijah. It goes so deep.
Yes, it does.
And you were right. Once you get past those 4 hours or whatever, it just gets insane. And man, I love looking back at Doki Doki Literature Club, and they're still finding things because of Doki Doki Plus that came out. Austin, you got to play Doki Doki.
I know. I really want to. And Seth, did you play it on PC? Is that how you played it?
Yes, he played the free one, which is the one I recommend.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I might just download it and jump into it if the free one is the one to play first.
Yes. For reasons I can't tell you, Seth knows exactly what it is. You have to play the free one. Like, there is an element to that game that you don't get with the new one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not what it appears at first. And then it's not what it appears at second. It's only until you go digging into the game. And like, so here's what I recommend. Play through Doki Doki, get through the 4 or 5 endings. It'll only take you maybe 5 or 6 hours. And then go watch the 2 game theory episodes about Doki Doki Literature Club and realize that you have no idea what this game's about until you watch those game theory episodes. And now with Doki Doki Plus, I think he just came out with 2 more. But the original 2, and then the newer ones of game theory. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, so this isn't what I thought it was originally at all. And it's so hard to talk about without completely spoiling it. But it's probably the coolest gaming experience, the most unique gaming experience I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
There is a reason I don't recommend, like, I will recommend this to anybody because it is so wild and so interesting. And without spoiling anything, you can't actually tell anybody about it because it spoils it. Once you get, if somebody spoils a sense of what happens, then a lot of the game kind of crumbles because you're like, oh, I already get the gist in that. Because if you were to go back and play it again, you would start noticing things a lot earlier. But if you know beforehand, then you start piecing them together faster. I'm like, oh, okay. And it kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
So I can't actually tell anybody what this game is like, but I recommend it to everyone because it's wild.
Well, and it's good too with Plus. I mean, obviously that's you have to pay for that, but it's good too that anyone can play it for free. I mean, it's just a free download.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
What were you going to say, Seth?
I would say it is unfortunate that you do need to take 4 or so hours to really get into the story progression. But also, here's the thing: don't play it on a controller because the controller support is terrible.
Yeah, do not play it on a controller.
Yeah, you gotta play it with mouse and keyboard.
Nice.
But yeah, I highly recommend it. I think anybody that loves deep, like, lore and stuff would love the Doki Doki Literature Club.
Exactly. not exactly what it appears on surface, and I love it.
Oh, but other than that, I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. Get my
Hey,
get my
Nice.
paladin up. I'm at level 53 for my paladin. Getting prepared for Endwalker because that's the featured class. So, gotta rock the paladin Endwalker. Having a blast naturally doing that, but yeah, I'm pretty much just playing Dark Souls and Trails of Cold Steel.
very nice. Austin, what about yourself? What's been on your gaming palette lately?
So I'm trying to think. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on, so I don't know how much I missed out on talking about. But I did dig a little more into Monster Hunter Stories 2. I'm kind of falling off of it at the moment because I'm focusing on another game for reasons. But that game's really good. I really like it so far. I didn't ever play the first one, so I don't really know how it compares. But I'm enjoying it. My only concern is because it's like a 100-hour RPG. I don't know if I'm ever gonna finish it, but we'll see. And I did want to quickly talk about Flight Simulator because that came out, I think, in the time frame where I was on last on
Yes, I believe
Series
you're
X. And that was part of the reason I bought my Series X was for Flight Sim and for Forza Horizon 5 this fall. And I love it so far. I love Flight Sim. I played a bit of, I forget what the version was on PC that was released in like the mid 2000s, but I used to play that somewhat frequently. And this one just looks so cool from the start because it has the entire world in the game. Like you can go literally to anywhere in on the planet, and because it uses like Bing Maps and some like GIS data, and it's pretty interesting. But I'm digging it so far. I really want to buy a flight stick for it because controller is fine, but it's like when you want to make small kind of calculations with the analog stick, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. So, but yeah, I love that game. It's really really fun, and it's kind of get me just it's something fun to relax to, and just kind of chill out. And like for example, one of the first things I did was like fly over where I live and just kind of look around from the sky and see what all was down there, and it was just kind of a neat experience. So
That's awesome.
but the main game I've been playing the past not even week, it's probably only been like 4 or 5 days, is Avengers on PS5. And Seth and I had talked about it at one point, jumping into it, until I found out that like the single player is entirely, well, the campaign rather is entirely single player. And so I was going to hold off for a bit, but then they announced that there's double XP for like the next month or so, I
Until
believe.
September 2nd, I believe.
Yeah. So with Black Panther, that expansion coming out, the War for Wakanda expansion coming out in a couple weeks, I think.
Next week,
Oh, is it next week? Cool.
17th.
Awesome. With that coming out and with the double XP, I thought, you know what, I might as well just jump into it and level my characters up and try and get through this. And I want to say maybe a little less than halfway through the campaign, maybe closer to like a third of the way through the campaign, but it's awesome. I actually really like it so far, and I'm really surprised because I played the beta, whenever it was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I don't even know how long the game's been out at this point, but I played the beta for probably an hour, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like how the game played, and just wasn't really impressed with it. And looking back on it, I think it might have just been kind of like the public perception. I mean, everyone was so negative on that game, but now like going into it, knowing the feedback and knowing what people think about it, I actually really like the way it plays. I really like the story in the game. It's surprisingly good. I was kind of shocked by that. Just does some stuff with like some Marvel properties that we haven't really seen done, touched recently, as far as like MCU stuff. Like it deals with AIM and MODOK and just some pretty cool kind of again, like content that hasn't really been brought up to the mainstream audiences yet. And so I'm enjoying it on that front, but it's just it's really good. I've probably played 7 or 8 hours, and I'm definitely going to keep moving forward with it.
And
So.
some of that time was we played together last night.
Yep.
And that's just a really fun game to play with friends.
Yeah. I mean, I still wish that the single player was co-op, but
Yeah.
Elijah and I just chilled out for a couple hours and played through some missions, and it's not mindless, but you don't have to focus on it to the point that like you can't really talk and you're so focused on the game, and I really like it for that. And it was kind of fun to just kind of go through and do these missions together and level up, because we leveled up like crazy. I mean, I think I leveled up maybe I was like level 6, and I think by the time we were done playing I was level 15 or 16, which is pretty good.
You played as Hulk for a mission or two as well,
Yeah.
even in there.
Yeah.
And leveled him up a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the leveling up is just beautiful right now. But like you said, it's the perfect game because it's not mindless, but you can talk with friends and kind of you can strategize, but it's not like you need to pay super close attention to what's going on and such. It is just a great game to play with friends.
Are you guys playing on PS4?
Yeah.
PS5.
Yeah, but they're crossplay.
Crossplay, yeah, that's right.
So if you jump into it, Seth, I mean, honestly, it would be a good time.
My biggest problem is that there's no characters in the game that I really care about at all.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing. Like Spider-Man is my favorite character, of course, but he's not even in there right now. And then like Hawkeye, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I've so far I've only technically unlocked in the single player Kamala, obviously, Hulk, and then Iron Man are the only 3 I have so far. But no, I get it, because it's like the aside from Kamala, and I guess
it's the MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Kate Bishop's in there, but both her and Kamala are coming to the MCU soon, so I don't know. I don't remember when the Miss Marvel show is coming out, but Hawkeye is in like 3 months.
Yep.
So,
yep.
But yeah,
no, I get that complaint, but
honestly, it was the same way for me for the longest time. I didn't start playing this game until one of the Hawkeyes was out.
Yeah.
Until Kate Bishop came out. That's when I started playing.
Dude, you know what's so weird is that the Marvel movies have sucked all of my joy of superheroes right out of me because of how much there has been in the last decade and a half. It's been about a decade and a half, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
2007, I think, or 6 or 7 was when Iron Man came out. So
it's just nonstop, man. It's always the next biggest movie or show, and it's constantly advertised and pushed down our throats. And I'll be honest, I don't do anything with superheroes anymore. I don't read any comics. I don't play any games. I don't watch any shows. And it's weird because that was such a huge part of my life for the longest time, and now I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it, dude.
Honestly, that's why the Suicide Squad was such a breath of fresh air to me, because it didn't feel like all these other comic book superhero movies that are out. And as someone who I also have been getting superhero fatigued, and I was able to relax in that film so much more than any other superhero movie I've watched in a long time. And that includes the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which I loved. But by the end of that, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to watch this again.
No, I actually agree with you on that. And I still love the MCU. I mean, I absolutely adore the MCU, and I still keep up with it. But Suicide Squad, for sure, Seth, I know you I know you don't give the slightest crap about the Suicide Squad, but I do actually think you would like that movie, because it doesn't feel like a superhero movie to me at all. It was kind of more of an action, kind of like comedy type film, and I thought it actually worked really well.
I think I might know the best thing to say to get Seth's interest in it.
Margot Robbie naked.
No.
Then you're wrong.
The constant back and forth between John Cena and Idris Elba.
It was some good stuff.
That might be a solid number 2, but I mean a solid number 2. You know what I'm saying? There's only one number 1 thing.
I'm sorry, she has her clothes on the whole time.
Yeah. She does wear a nice red dress, though.
Yeah.
I saw that because everyone's using that thumbnail for her doing the key trick with her toes.
She found it on a porch in Pennsylvania in a box.
Oh, yeah. No, that was a Bulbasaur dress.
Fun story, that key trick wasn't a stunt double. They were going to get one, but Margot Robbie was like, "No, I can do that," and just did it herself.
Yeah, well, I keep seeing people in comments about that saying that Guillermo del Toro would love that, and I don't understand why people. Does he have like a famous foot fetish or something?
I don't
Oh
know,
my god.
but I'm curious now.
I've
I
been
shouldn't
seeing
be, but I am.
I've been seeing that everywhere, dude, and I don't know why. It's really weird.
It might just be the contortionism, because I could see like Guillermo del Toro monsters just be like
I don't know.
moving in weird ways and such. I also can't believe I just used the word contortionism, and I don't know if it's real or not, but it is now.
It sounded
Okay.
it sounded legit to me. I don't know.
I don't want to like derail this conversation, but I know we're already on like a good like kind of pivot point. So today Idris Elba was cast as Knuckles
Oh yeah, I saw
I
that.
love it
the
so
second
much.
Sonic film, and that's got to be like one of the best castings of all time.
Yeah, that is cool.
I don't know how it's gonna work, but I love it.
Coach, what do you think about Idris Elba being cast as Knuckles in Sonic
It's
the Hedgehog?
Kyle Newman.
Brum, brum, brum.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't
Famous
have
words
a.
from
I mean, like, I
Coach.
kind of don't really care. I didn't see the first one, so
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you should. You should
It
see
was
the
pretty
first one.
good.
It's actually a really good movie.
I
I
heard it was
enjoyed
really
it
good.
quite a bit.
I saw Suicide last night.
Ooh, we were just talking about that. What'd you think? All right, Austin.
It took a little while for me to really get into it. The part with Harley in the mansion, that's when I really started to get into it, when she started to strut her stuff.
That part was so good. Oh,
And I like the shout out to her old original costume, I think, where it has did you see her tattoo?
yep.
Yeah.
So, Coach, why were you so quiet the first 21 minutes?
Yeah. Can't
No,
believe you
I-
didn't talk up.
What do you mean?
Yeah, like you were here the whole time. You just didn't say anything. So
I just didn't have anything to say.
Okay, I see.
Didn't even introduce you.
And introducing the fourth member, the coach. I was trying to think of the hot rod coach. It's hard to do a nickname when his name is a nickname.
Actually, fun fact, my son's going to be moving back to Dallas, Fort Worth. So we're trying to get it to where we can teach at the same school, and then he and I coach together.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That'd be awesome. Also, the next time I see you in person, I'm just gonna say I've got to say the hello Newman, because I never have.
Never heard that before.
Really?
Come on, man.
All right.
Of course
Fair
I
enough.
This is fascinating. This is the
Fair
best
enough.
podcast we've ever done.
So while you were here the whole time, Coach, what have you been playing lately?
I haven't played a game in like over 2 weeks, so I don't
All
have
right, thanks,
anything.
Coach.
Yes. Next.
So I finally platinumed Scarlet Nexus,
Nice.
which I adore that game so much. At the very end, I had to do a little level grinding to get that final trophy, but there's a super easy way to grind out like 20 levels in 2 hours. So I just kind of did that like an hour a night for 2 nights and got that plat. That game is so good. It'll definitely do the Bandai Namco come down half price in a couple months, but when it does it, I highly recommend it. I just had so much fun. I love the story, love the characters, and I'm still like sitting here like, I wish it wasn't over. Maybe I'll get the PS4 version so I can get another platinum. Because I would gladly play it again. Other than that, I have been continuing Final Fantasy XIV. I'm just about done with patch 3.2 in the Dragon Song War. And there have been so many times where I've been playing lately where I'm like, is this story as good as I remember? And then I play for like an hour and I'm like, yeah, it is. Story's fantastic. But other than
I'm
that,
surprised you remember what's going on, to be honest with you. You've made 6 hours of story progress in 7 years. So
about 5 years, but yeah.
I was waiting to see where that was going to go.
yeah, you're not wrong. But I remember it all. But the only other thing I've been playing is one of my 3 backlog games, that I am so glad I have a walkthrough basically on speed dial on my phone at all times. Ninja Gaiden Sigma for PS Vita. There are so many times I've been playing that where I'm like, what do I do? It's like, you need to be in this room. Okay, yeah, I get that. But what do I do? And I have to go look and I'm like, oh, I need to do these 4 things in this specific order that the game doesn't tell you about in any way, shape, or form. So you're supposed to just kind of guess they exist. All right, cool. Like, I'm enjoying it overall, but the game is kind of wearing on me. Thankfully, I'm close. I'm not going to say close-ish to the end, but I'm a little over 2/3 of the way through it. But
Which one is it?
the first one, Sigma. And it's a fun game, but I cannot play 2 for a while. I'm gonna need a Ninja Gaiden break.
So those were released on the Xbox, PS2, right?
Ninja Gaiden Black was on the Xbox. Then 2 and 3 were on the 360
Yes.
2 and 3 were just on the 360, and then Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, which is Ninja Gaiden 3 but with more content, and I guess it fixed a lot of the problems that 3 had, because 3 apparently was really bad beforehand, but Razor's Edge actually made it pretty decent. That came out on Wii U, 360, and PS3. So I'm gonna play 1 and 2 on Vita, and then Razor's Edge on PS3.
I feel like no game has ever been re-released more than Ninja Gaiden 1.
Resident Evil 4.
I don't know. Have you looked at these numbers?
Are we forgetting Skyrim, Seth?
It's not even close, dude. It's not even close. There's Ninja Gaiden. There's
Grand
Ninja
Theft
Gaiden
Auto.
Black. There's Ninja Gaiden Sigma. And then they've been released multiple times on each system, and I just feel like it's always coming out.
I think there's enough copies of Resident Evil 4 released to match all of the Ninja Gaiden releases together.
Yeah, but Resident Evil 4 sucks. Who cares?
And all the ET Atari cartridges that are in the landfill.
Didn't they try to find them like 2
They
years
did.
Yeah,
ago?
they did
Yeah,
a
they
documentary
did.
on it.
That was
They did it.
that was the one and only movie or something that was on the Xbox One app.
Yeah.
It was just that documentary where they went to the landfill, and it was about 45 minutes from here, I think, or a couple hours maybe. But
That's pretty cool.
That's
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
because Major Nelson was one of the
Yeah.
hosts or something of
Oh,
the
yeah, you're
documentary,
right.
which didn't even make sense.
if I remember correctly, I think that documentary was sponsored by Xbox.
I think it might have been.
The documentary for finding Atari cartridges, sponsored by the Microsoft Xbox.
Whoa!
We have George Starscream Loftus.
Megatron! Right? It's basically
The literal worst Transformers character. I'm glad to see you, George.
Cobra Commander, right?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
actually.
pretty
I think it might
much,
be the
yeah.
same- I
I was
think it
gonna
might
say,
be
are they the same
guy.
voice actor?
I think so.
Didn't Starscream switch sides in the one show?
No, Jetfire did.
Ah.
He
Starscream
betrayed Megatron, though.
Yeah, Starscream was always I'm gonna take down Megatron while he's not paying attention, become the leader of No, sorry, didn't mean it, bro. Just chilling, just playing.
But yeah, Jetfire was friends with the Decepticon jets before the Civil War, and then
Yep.
he got knocked out.
He got frozen in ice.
He's got 6 million years or whatever, and then bumped into him and was just like, "Oh, hey guys, good to see you again." And they're like, "Yeah, you know about the war, right?" He's like, "What war?" It's like, "Oh man, these guys are jerks. You should hang out with us."
Also, just to confirm, yes, he Christopher Collins is the voice actor, and he did voice both Starscream and Cobra Commander.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
Have you guys watched the new iteration of Transformers?
It's awesome.
the first season, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the first season. It was super good.
Yep.
The only one I've ever watched is the one with the mini bots. They make the sword and the
Armada.
shield.
Armada.
Armada,
yes.
yeah.
That's the one I ever watched.
Armada is pretty good.
That's the one on Netflix, right?
No, Armada was like 2002 ish,
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
I actually have right out in that other room. I have the Transformers Armada Unicron figure.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
dude, I got that one. I got that one too. Yeah.
It's
I have-
so awesome.
I never got the Unicron, but I do have the Primus from Cybertron. I think was the series that was in that trio of shows.
Yeah.
So, and it's like kind of the same model. It's a really, really cool figure.
Yeah, same model, doesn't have like the horns on the head or like the spindly like angel wings, but yeah, God,
Yeah.
man, what a franchise! Love that stuff so much.
The only thing I think of when you guys are talking about the Transformers figures is the Bloodbath that was like 5 years ago when they were releasing the really nice Transformers figures again, and everyone was trying to get them, and it was a massacre out there.
Yeah.
It was. I was just reading about like these people, these collectors. It's like the Pokemon card situation nowadays.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Is that the 4K, Elijah?
Yeah.
You got the touch.
I ever since watching this again on 4K, I'm like, yeah, I'm in Transformers mood again.
Dude, that movie's like so good, and like not to dunk on other stuff, but like the GI Joe movie, like the animated GI Joe movie, not that great. It was really disappointing to like go from the Transformers movie to that and just be a little underwhelmed.
We're talking about the original animated one, by the way, for audio listeners.
Do you think for G.I. Joe that was just a one-hit wonder? Like they just can't get it right since the original cartoons?
I think the state of what G.I. Joe is based on and what it stands for has changed so much that it's hard to convey that same sentiment nowadays. So if you're watching the old ones, unless you have an affinity for it, you're kind of like, okay. And with the newer stuff, they have to kind of try and change it up a little bit. So at the same time, it doesn't feel like G.I. Joe. So you're also kind of like, okay.
Well, that, and there was that like truly awful like mid 90s GI Joe reboot that was like putrid stuff. Like it was, I guess in hindsight, it's like kind of an interesting art direction. Like it kind of looked like Spawn and like McFarlane-esque, but it was just like such a departure from like the 80s GI Joe.
I didn't even know that happened.
I still think, just to go back to the first Transformers movie, though, I still think it's fascinating that movie was essentially like, okay, let's kill all these Transformers so we can make new ones and sell them.
See, and that's just it. Both the Transformers movie and the G.I. Joe movie were basically hour-and-a-half long commercials.
Yeah.
But
it's pretty amazing that like the Transformers one happened because like, all right, we've exhausted all the licenses for like these 3 lines of toys that we were able to combine in the US for a Transformers franchise. All we have left are futuristic, but it doesn't really make sense. So that's why there's like a 20-year time jump between the last episode of season 3 or season 2 and then like the movie, and then everything was in the future.
Set in the
Like,
year
that's why, like,
2005.
Blur is like a hover car, you know, it's just like, well, we didn't have that back in 86.
The thing that really surprises me is just the cast of the Transformers movie. Judd
really
Nelson, Orson Welles,
Leonard Nimoy.
Like this is a commercial, and they got those amazing actors for it.
That was Orson Welles' like last.
That was his very last performance.
Bro, I like brought that up in a film class because they were talking about Orson Welles' last great movie coming out in like the 60s or whatever. I'm like, no.
No. There's a little film called Transformers.
I was like, I like wrote a paper. I'm like, yeah, it makes like it's fitting that like Orson Welles' last performance, he plays God, you know, like a robot God who just eats planets for lunch. That's the cool. If you're listening and you're undecided in college, you should be a film major because you can just make up whatever lies you want.
You can write a paper about Transformers. Yeah.
Elijah, we got a code red.
What's the code red?
It dropped.
What?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It dropped? Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So while Elijah's taking a look at that, did you guys watch the new Cobra or the new Snake Eyes movie?
No, I heard it actually wasn't that bad though.
I enjoyed it. Now, did it completely follow the lore? Probably not, because all these new remakes don't, right? I mean, just look at the He-Man like fan base. They're like having a conniption fit over there, but
yeah, they are melting down.
Yeah, but And
I thought the new He-Man show was like good. Like I thought it was really well made.
but you know what? I actually started watching the 2002 one.
I don't think it's the quality that people are upset about. It's like the
No,
blatant
no,
lying.
it's the
Well, they killed what's his face off, right?
He-Man. They killed He-Man off.
Yeah, that's not spoilers. That's like literally the first 15 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah.
It's interesting though because I'm noticing parallels between like the marketing for He-Man and like the marketing for like The Force Awakens, right? Where it's like you think that like Finn is going to be like this badass Jedi character, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of a switcheroo.
I don't know.
It didn't drop.
Austin,
Yeah, I was
Austin,
going to say, are you lying,
didn't.
Seth? Because it didn't drop.
there's a cat behind you, Austin.
What?
There's a cat behind you, Austin.
This podcast is a train wreck. Can I
It's
just
pretty
say?
ma-
Can I just say something here? It's
Yeah.
awesome to have all 5 of us on this show because
It
this
is.
is like the first time this has happened in like probably a year.
Ever.
And that's why it's kind of a train wreck now because yeah, we're recording, but we're also all just kind of catching up and BSing with each other.
What's
Yeah.
up, dude?
It's
It was
it's
like-
a slow news week for games anyhow.
It was the Game of the Year episode, right? Like our last episode
I
of
think
last
so.
year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was actually people talking about. I heard this morning that there's going to be later on this year possibly an announcement for Xenoblade 3.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did read that.
There was an interview
Hold up.
that somebody did with a voice actress from the first game,
Who
and
plays Clara in Doctor Who? Yes.
yeah, and she said something like, "Yeah, it's been like 10 years since I did it for the first game, and I know people love the second one, and the third one will be coming out soon." Am I supposed to say that? I don't know. It's whatever. And then
Wait, Jenna Coleman?
yeah,
Oh man, I got a photo with her at San Francisco Comic-Con back in
Nice.
2017.
Wait, who what does she do? in
From
Xenoblade?
Doctor Who, like the Impossible Girl, Claire Oswald.
But she also voice acts characters for Xenoblade, I think.
Is she Pyra?
Oh, that's cool.
Is she Pyra? I don't
I don't
know.
know. Pyra's got a really good voice actor. Rex, I'm with you.
all I know is she's in the first game.
I love-
So it's not two.
I mean, it wouldn't be this video game podcast if we didn't bring it back to sports for a second. This past week was like NBA free agency week, where like everyone was like signing with different teams and like trades and all this stuff was happening. And a really popular thing that happens is like a fake Twitter account that's pretending to be like an actual like newsbreaker, like, you know, Adrian Wojnarowski, who's like Mr. Basketball basically for Twitter, or like Shams is like the other big guy who like breaks news. But they just like release fake ones and try to get like as many like retweets as possible, just with like, oh, it turns out LeBron is leaving the Lakers and going to the Celtics. You know, it's just like spit stuff like that. Sorry. It's just fake stuff like that. And I like the idea that it's like happening for games now, where it's just like the trailer dropped and all of it. It's like, no, it didn't drop.
By the way, yeah, we were talking about Abandoned, is what Seth said dropped. It turns out it didn't drop. So
No,
Seth
I saw something that wasn't right.
Okay, that's
Red
very
alert.
Yeah.
Red alert.
This
That's a
podcast
Rush
is
song.
chaotic, and you know what it feels like to me? It feels like friends who saved you a spot in line for like the midnight launch of a game.
Or the
Like
end
this-
of Lord of the Rings, where all the hobbits get back together and they're dancing freely and gay,
Just jumping
and
on the bed.
happily. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
or
like
like-
if those two moments could have a baby. That's what this podcast is right now. It's wonderful energy. I love it.
Yeah.
Yo, I miss midnight releases though. I had just some
Yeah.
incredible times.
What was the last midnight release everyone went to?
Oh, I got this one, dude. Fallout
Seth.
4.
Fallout
Fallout
4. Me too.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And you know what? I got all my alcohol and I got Fallout 4 at midnight and I went back and I installed Fallout 4 and the install was so long that I got drunk and passed out before I even played it.
My man.
It was the same for me. Without the drinking, I installed it and I played for like 10 minutes and I went to sleep.
Yeah.
mine was Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Oh.
Oh, that's really recent. Wow, that's cool.
My last one was Forza Motorsport 6 because I remember being like, I'm gonna go pick up Forza, and you know, I grab it. It's midnight. And I'm like, it's past midnight. Let me run to Walmart. Furious 7 will be out now. And I just ran to Walmart quick and picked up Furious 7 right when it came out, and then went home and watched Furious 7 as Forza took a couple hours to install because for some reason, installing a game from the disc on the Xbox One took 8 times as long as it should have.
Yeah, it was actually faster to download it.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good point, though, that like midnight launches these days, like with the install size of games, like it's almost kind of useless.
Yeah, I
guess unless you're like staying up all night long.
Well,
I would do it. I would do it because of data caps. Like that was my big thing.
Yeah. One thing to also keep in mind is a lot of games now, for example, we were talking about Hades earlier. We have it pre-installed on our Xboxes. So as soon as it hits midnight, we can play.
That's
so
cool.
granted I don't deploy. Being that we have Game Pass, we could all install Halo, right?
Yes.
But for me, I'll try and get the version with the Steelbook case, right? But it's not like I could go ahead and probably pre-download that in 3 weeks, and we don't even know a release date yet for it. But they like to. What's the longest you've seen where you could pre-install a game?
I have Stalker 2 downloaded on my Xbox Series S. That game comes out next April.
How is that possible? Like, is it just is it like a partition that they've created just on your hard drive, like with no like actual data, just like designated space?
Delete it. Delete
Elijah,
it.
what shirt is that?
Teen Titans.
Can you stand up so we can see it? Because that looks pretty cool.
I thought it was Cowboy Bebop.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, nice, dude.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah,
I got it from a Hot Topic like 10 years ago.
You just maybe kind of want to watch Cowboy Bebop. Me and my girlfriend just finished up the Berserk movies. Dude, insanely good. I have never seen a more adult anime in my whole freaking life than Berserk.
I've heard they're amazing.
That was like shockingly adult. Like, I was watching that. I'm like, this is wild. Like whoever made these is like out of control. But it was super, super refreshing. I had a blast watching Berserk, and I was really disappointed to find out that they did that series really dirty with the animes. And apparently, like, the anime series that comes after the 3 movies is like awful. It's 100% CGI. It's shot really bad, but there's like a huge gap in content that they didn't cover. And also, the series has been going on since the 80s in the manga. And
oh, yeah, dude, the creator just passed away recently.
He just died.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I found all this out after I watched these 3 movies, which were incredible, like insane experiences. So I'm like, I'm going to dive into this. Now I'm like, well, I don't think I should dive into this because I'm just going to read 300 chapters and never know the ending.
So one of the awesome things about teaching is being able to interact with the students and, get to know them. So one thing about El Paso is a lot of the high school kids, they're really into anime. So we'll get into conversations and they're surprised, right, that I'm into it. But today, my 4th period, and this is the only period I'll do it with, but I showed them one of my favorite parts growing up. So, I used to watch Speed Racer when I was like 4 or 5, right?
Hell yeah.
So I showed them the godfather of anime. And at first they're like laughing. And then when I showed them one of the scenes there, it was pretty intense. Everyone was just quiet watching it. So I told them, I said, every once in a while we'll have an anime moment if we finish our work. So I think I'll show them either like G-Force or Robotech next.
Don't show them Berserk.
No, but these are the ones that I grew up on. This is the anime that I grew up on.
I was going to say, I'm trying to think of like the worst possible ones that you could show them.
Well, I did talk to them about Afro Samurai.
Oh,
have you guys seen Afro Samurai?
I have not.
Yes.
I haven't.
It's really good.
Who here has seen Berserk, by the way?
Not me.
Not it.
None of you have seen Berserk.
I've heard about it
forever.
I'm in a Facebook group that's all about just like collecting omnibus books, like super big, expensive comic book collections. And I'm not going to share what the name of it is because I love buying used books there and I don't want more competition. But as soon as the author died, like everyone was just like pouring one out basically, and they were just showing like their collection of like these beautiful like oversized bound hardcovers of Berserk.
I've seen them. They're
And-
gorgeous.
Yeah, and they're just talking about how like, yeah, this is like a problematic story. Like weird stuff happens. Like this guy clearly has like weird opinions and issues. This is still like one of the most like singular works of art I've ever seen. That it's just so beyond unique that it's like I can't not have this on my shelf.
Dude, I thought Goblin Slayer was like the peak of graphicness that anime could produce. And then I watched Berserk and I was like, whoa, this is a whole another level. This is almost like too much. It's pretty wild.
Well, this isn't anime, but going back to what you said about Omnibus, Star Wars, the Clone Wars comic, bro, that has some really good drawn, like really good art. And so it's out there too, the Omnibus for the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And you want to see Anakin go dark. There's some good stories in there.
Dude, that series is great. I grabbed like all the trade paperbacks. Like you can find usually like a big bundle of all of them on eBay for like like $100 for like 10 volumes. $120 is like a fair price. Good stuff. Great stuff.
Awesome.
No one asked me, but my last midnight launch.
Oh yeah, that's
my
what
George, what was your last
midnight launches? My last 2 midnight launches. In 2011, it was Skyrim. I was so excited for Skyrim. I'd never played an Elder Scrolls before, and I remember like grabbing it and going to a bar and like talking to some girl, and she's like, "So what are you doing later?" I was like, "Well, actually," and I like pull the game like out of my jacket. I'm like, "I was gonna go home. I've never played this game before. It seems cool." And I like opened up the case. I'm like, "Oh, there's a map." Sorry, Austin, I'll maybe 5. But then I was just like looking at the map, like at the bar, and like all my friends were like, "I don't know this person. Like, I don't even want to pretend to care about this
That's
guy."
awesome. Who cares?
And then I went home and played it, and it was the PlayStation 3 version, so I hate it.
Nice.
I hated it.
So all your dragons
fair.
flew backwards, and you couldn't do anything.
Yeah, basically. It's like, oh, I stole a slice of bread 8 hours ago, so of course my game save ate itself. And then the last midnight launch was technically not a midnight launch, but like games in California are released at 9 p.m.
Yeah. Yep. I still would consider that.
And so I got Skyrim Special Edition.
For what? For what system?
PS4,
George?
it ran great. Got the platinum.
Okay, that's
PS4 ran good.
Now, the PS3, the original on the PS3, didn't that have a lot of bugs?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
That's what he was talking about. The bread.
I guess that's all of them.
Yeah.
But I did go to the, I did get my Switch at the midnight launch.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So this is actually an interesting story. I saved my PS3 Skyrim file and was able to move it to my PC with a registry editor.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
because I had played my PS. Because basically the problem with the PS3 Skyrim was that if you played too much and like left certain doors open and whatnot, the game keeps all that memory, all that data in its memory. And the PS3's 50% cut storage space for game memory wasn't able to handle that. So the game would run progressively worse as you played through it. And mine started running bad. So I looked up the process, and because PS3 allowed you to move your save files to a USB drive,
Right.
and you could plug them right into your PC and look at them. And there was a whole guide on how to like edit your save file from the PS3, and then copied it over to my PC, and it ran great. I used it for years.
That's
Wow.
amazing. That's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I talked about this with Elijah on our like trophy episode, but like part of me wants to like boot up my PS3 copy of Skyrim and just go like one trophy at a time. Like, all right, here I'm going to go for like the main quest, and I'm not going to do anything except for the main quest and get those trophies. And then like restart a game and then be like, okay, I'm going to get all the Thieves Guild trophies. Just going to run for those and restart a game. Just because like that platinum is just like, it's eating at me that I don't have it. Cause I love
That's
that
gotta
game
be.
so incredibly much.
That's got to be a really rare platinum, right? I mean, 'cause that game had such bad issues that everyone would run into, given you played long enough.
Dr. Loco is on the case.
My favorite thing about Skyrim was all of the awesome videos they would do on YouTube, right? Back in like 2012 or whatever. And it showed all of the different mods that you could do, and you find those Star Wars mods where it has the Death Star or, just whatever. People
The
got creative with their content that they would make regarding
The ridiculous funny ones are my favorite.
Oh yeah, like the Thomas the Tank Engine and
I didn't use YouTube back then for anything besides music videos, really. Like it'd be like music videos and like how to change a shower head, like if I needed like plumber's tape or not, just stuff like that.
Right.
Was that the golden age of YouTube content, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause everyone talks about it so fondly, but I just wasn't plugged in.
Because at the time, the really good people that started to earn money from it, they were buying like 720p capture cards, right? Where everybody else was doing standard def. So when you'd see that 720 like video, it was new, you're like, man, that's awesome.
Also, like, I think a lot of why can't I talk? That was an interesting question because I think it's making me think. I think a lot of content quality goes down once you introduce a large amount of money. Because back then, almost nobody was making a lot of money on YouTube. There was a few people, but almost nobody was. So people really did it. People made videos,
for the love.
Yeah, just to make you laugh. And like that's what that Skyrim like Macho Man Randy Savage mod was, right? Like you just go into that starter town and then distance you just hear, oh yeah, and you're like, oh no, what's happening? And then when he breathes, snap into a Slim Jim, then breathes out the fire, and it's like that is some top tier comedy, dude. It didn't like, I don't know, back then that's all it was comedy, and then a few years later, people started making a whole bunch of money, and then of course the apocalypse happened.
Well, it's interesting because that sounds like a meme factory almost, like it was just like, okay, this content is designed to be bite size, like just you memorize like a line almost. Like it feels more just like a quick joke as opposed to like I've been sucked into YouTube recently where like I've been obsessed with like just 20-minute long video essays talking about cosmic nihilism as it's portrayed in Rick and Morty. Like that's like the kind of stuff I watch now to like fall asleep. And so
That's really
it is
heavy
interesting
to fall
that,
asleep to.
Yeah, God, I just have the worst dreams. And so it is interesting that everyone's like, oh, the golden age of YouTube is like, yeah, it's back when it was just like super simple memes, basically, just like speaking like mimetically, like the actual like definition of the word. It's interesting.
Yeah, Elijah, what do you have to say?
So I looked it up. The platinum percentage for Skyrim on PS3 is 10.72%.
Wow, that's high.
That's much higher than I expected. But I think at the time, if you had a PS3, whether it ran great or not, and the answer is not, if that was the conf you were playing on and you were playing Skyrim, you were playing.
You're gonna make it work. Yeah. Life finds a way.
Speaking
So
of
in
life
20
finding,
in 2028, when the next Elder Scrolls comes out, are you guys going to play it? I mean, is that a game that
it'll be on
you'll
Game Pass,
excited?
so I'll play it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. That's the thing. Like I love trophies and stuff, dude. I play every Halo game every year. Like I'll play through all the Halos. Like every 2 years, I'll play through all the Gears of War games. Like I love the trophy ecosystem, but like, dude, a good game's a good game, and Microsoft is shepherding a lot of good games.
I just think people need to set their expectations for the Elder Scrolls and Starfield, because I'm telling you guys right now, mark it in your calendars, assess like us prediction. When Starfield comes out, it's going to be super controversial because Bethesda has not evolved at the same pace that other developers have evolved at. The Bethesda still makes their games like Skyrim. All right, like that's about as far as their engine ever got. And it's because they're still using an engine from the 90s called Gamebryo, and they keep innovating on top of it, or not innovating, incrementally like adding things on top of it. And that engine is just not made to handle things like this.
No, it's a late 90s engine that refused to die, right?
It's the reason things like Fallout 76 had so many issues, because they pushed that to its breaking point. And Bethesda, I just think, has a certain, I don't know, like quirkiness to them, and everyone has so much history with them. They love them so much that they refuse to like acknowledge the fact that these guys are living in a different era in the past. Because if Skyrim came out today, it wouldn't fly, right?
Yeah.
But it came out back then, and everyone was like, it's fine, it's just part of their quirkiness. And then Fallout 4 came out, and everyone was like, yeah, the bugs are part of the quirkiness. And then
but also I don't know. Like it's one of those things. Like you defend movies the same way, right? Like, oh man, you couldn't make Wedding Crashers today, but man, when it came out, that movie was pretty funny. Like it's such a tough thing to argue, especially because like this is not just like aesthetics. Like it's not them choosing to build a game this way because they think a game should be this way. It's because they don't have any other choice because that's how outdated their engine is. Like that's.
I don't know.
That's the difference.
They've had plenty of time and financials to fix it, though. I mean, The Witcher 3 came out not that long after Fallout 4, right? Or was it before Fallout 4?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it was before Fallout 4, and it made The Witcher 3 set a new standard for open world games that obviously Ubisoft saw and started copying and whatnot. There is a different standard for open world games now than there was when Fallout 4 and Skyrim came out. And I
10 years ago. Skyrim came out 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know. But Fallout,
it's ridiculous that there hasn't been a sequel and that they've, by all imagination, just like refused to, I guess, like acknowledge like where the genre has gone, where the industry has gone. Like that I think you're hitting so many nails on the head. Like it's just insane to me that like I agree with you. I think whatever it's called is going to be so bizarre when it comes out.
Starfield.
Because we're going to be... Thank you. Because... Sorry, I'm tired. I've been like moving for like the past like 6 days. I'm exhausted.
Your brain hasn't moved yet.
No. I think you're right. I think it's going to be like, oh man, it's really great to see like a Bethesda game, but then everyone's going to remember like, Bethesda games. Man.
Why has my game crashed 3 times? They're going to be, well, that's Bethesda that made it. Okay.
It's going to make Cyberpunk...
It's not going to be that bad.
No.
Microsoft won't let it be that bad.
But it's just like the Outer Worlds came out and just like completely out Bethesda. That
was such a middle finger to Bethesda too.
It was perfect. Yeah. And then like I'm more excited for whatever like their fantasy game is.
Oh yeah, dude. That looks awesome.
Like we just got like a little snippet at the Xbox showcase 2 years ago, a year ago. I can't remember.
Last year.
Time means nothing anymore.
Yeah, that was last year.
But on that note, fellas, I think it's time we wrap up. You can follow us on Twitter. Seth is at Seth the 90s Kid. Don't follow him. Nope. George is at GB Loftus. Don't follow him. Austin is at Austin J. Eller. You can follow him.
You can follow me.
Austin J. Eller.
Coach is at frameskippod. And he's telling you not to follow him. I don't
really post anymore. So.
I am at Loco Lizard Man. You can follow me. You can catch the podcast on any podcatcher of your choice. And if you have any questions, send them to, frameskip.bit.ly. Send it to frameskippod at Twitter.
Yes, there you go.
Because that's probably our best option of seeing it.
We have a P.O. box. You can
snail mail your question in.
Yeah, and address it if you send it into @frameskippod. Address it as Yo Teach. It's Coach's primary Twitter account. There you go. So just
Teach.
I like to think of us with a PO box. With PO box, we get a question. It's just so we know The Witcher 3 is about to release, and
we will only accept PO box inquiries on a scroll written in blood with a wax seal. That is it.
The scroll has to be human skin. By the way.
Yeah, human skin.
I'm with Seth. Like if you want to do it, you gotta commit.
All right,
delivered on horseback.
Go big or go home.
Good thing I know where to find the human skin scrolls. But thanks everyone. We shall return next week. And fellas, anything you want to say before we leave?
One shall stand, one shall fall, Elijah. That's all I'm going to say, buddy. Let's get out of here.
Resident Evil 4 sucks.
Megatron! The Autobots! They're here!
Okay, that was actually just purely Cobra Commander. I lost it.
Thanks, everybody. And good night, listener. Good night.